Welcome back. We are very excited about our guest today. So, as always, we start with our standard questions: who you, what to do, and why.
Hi, I'm Jackie Kashian. I'm a stand-up comic, and why? Well, it's cheaper than heroin, emotionally. So you never know. Let's see. Yeah, I'm a stand-up comic. I have a couple of podcasts, and I act when they let me. But I mostly just do stand-up comedy. That's what I. And I suppose I mostly do podcasting too, especially now because we're in a pandemic.
Yeah.
What's going on? What are you? What? How about who are you? Why are you? Let's
Oh,
hear it.
oh. Never gotten someone ask you back before.
See, how do you feel?
Hey,
There
hey,
you go.
now, offsides. I am interviewer. I make rules. This is going swimmingly already.
Already.
So, is there anything you're working on right now that you'd like to share with our audience today?
Well, I suppose people, if they wanted to see me do stand-up comedy, they should definitely get involved. I have four. I have several comedy albums. I've been doing stand-up comedy since the dawn of man. So I have a lot of comedy albums. They could go on all of their favorite places to stream those: Spotify, Pandora, Amazon. And I believe my distributor has all of my albums on YouTube, even, which are even freer. You don't have to be a member. But it's Jackie Kashian, JackieKashian. And my YouTube actually, right in March, when I got off the road for the last time, I ripped my DVD and put it on top of my Twitter feed. So if you go to @JackieKashian and look at the pinned tweet, you may find an unlisted video of me doing stand-up 2 albums ago, the last time I did a filmed kind of DVD thing. So,
Oh, you're getting this everywhere.
sure. And then I got a couple of podcasts. I've got the Jackie and Laurie show, which you clearly listen to, or somebody does, your mom, I think. And then I have the Dork Forest, where I talk to people about what they like to dork out about for an hour. And that's just, there's 800 episodes of that if you want to go down a rabbit hole of hearing about bees and Marvel comic books and video games and wrestling. And uh, this week, I believe, is a racquetball game called pickleball, using sort of a ping pong racket and a wiffle ball, and then they play it on a quarter of a tennis court.
Huh.
Ball
Wonder how they
and
got the name
Tooney. Yeah.
Pickleball.
That comes up, and it was either the dog or something to do with crew, the rowing sport crew. There you go.
Okay. All right, then,
I don't
folks.
know. She didn't know. We gave it a and not information.
All right, then, folks. If you need the information, then go watch it and find out. So, how did you get into podcasting with the Jackie and Laurie show and the Dork Forest? Like, how did you get it all started?
Well, 2006 is when the Dork Forest started. I started it a little earlier, but I believe the first episode that went up was in 2006. And essentially, somebody mentioned it I believe, an open mic that I was here in Los Angeles. And I was like, what the hell is that? And there's like, well, people could listen to like a streaming radio show on their iPods. And I was like, yeah? How do you do it? And he's like, this guy told me about Blog Talk Radio, which was, you didn't need any equipment. Now, the whole world has fancy equipment. But in 2006, you could just call in with your telephone, and it would record it, and it sounded a lot like AM radio from the 70s. So it was not. So there's 200 episodes from 2006. So that's how I got into podcasting. And then I bought some equipment and asked for donations, and people gave me $600. And I went and I started there were some old costumes in the attic, and we put on a show. And then about 4 years ago, would have been, I think 5 now, actually 5 years ago, Laurie Kilmartin, stand-up comic, a writer for Conan, has been writing for television and doing stand-up comedy as long as I have, and does the road. Really, really funny. Has a couple of books out. She she asked me if I wanted to be on a podcast, and I said, I have a podcast. And then she said, oh, would you want to do one with me where we talked about doing stand-up comedy? Because there's 1,000 gajillion, because the Jackie and Laurie show, which is the other podcast that I do, literally we just celebrate and bitch about stand-up comedy for 1 hour each week. And I will do that with her because she has a very parallel track to my own career. So it's kind of fascinating to hear the her stupid stories and her stupid, what comics she had to work with coming up, and there's great stories, there's stupid stories. It's a free for all. It's a Wild West stand-up comedy a little bit, and so we started doing that 5 years ago, I think it is.
And it's just been going ever since.
Yeah, because there's 1,000. I was going to say there's like a lot of stand-up comedy podcasts that are two middle-aged white dudes, straight white dudes, but it with the stand-up comedy. Very few middle-aged white women talking about stand-up comedy. So it wasn't exactly a step forward for anybody, people of color. No, it was more of a lateral move, more whitey magoos talking about what they know. So, and it was fun. It's a good time though. So if you enjoy stand-up comedy and want to hear sort of that kind of thing, it's entirely that.
All right, then. So my first time seeing you was actually not on either of the podcasts, but it was when you opened for Maria Bamford in Austin. How did the two of you meet? And have you all done many other shows?
Sure. Bamford and Maria and I have been friends since 1992 when we met at the open mics in Minneapolis. And so she's originally from Minnesota. I'm a Minneapolis comic, moved there in 1990. And so Maria Bamford is one of I would say the top 2 comics in the world right now for me. And nobody's writing better. Nobody's more interesting to watch on stage. Nobody has a weirder twist at the end of a joke. She's just a delight. I have no idea what's your cursing situation, because I would say the F word and then a delight. For she is all of that.
Yeah. Bridget, are we allowed to curse?
No. Still no.
Also,
I thought we were free from TSTV. Come on.
We are free, but we still need to keep it clean so the YouTube gods don't,
Oh, yeah.
strike us down dead.
Yeah, we escaped from the university monster, so now we have to deal with the YouTube monster.
Right. Children swear more than I do, so I always mark the Dork Forest as for children. I never mark the Jackie and Laurie show for children, though, just because it'll make them sad. I think that YouTube-wise, it's all good. But yeah, so Maria has been doing stand-up probably since 90, I think. And I count the 80s as 1 year. I started in 1984, but most of the 80s were me plugging along trying to graduate from college. So I count the 80s as about 1 year.
You said that Maria Bamford was one of your 2 most favorite comics. Just asking, who's the other one?
Yeah, you should. His name is Stuart Lee, and he is a UK comic. He's got a show on Netflix where he does stand-up and intersperses. It's Stewart, and then Lee, Lee, and he is and he's English, but he's of Scottish ancestry, weirdly enough. Which I guess is a big deal in the UK. It'd be sort of like someone in the United States saying, but we're from Mississippi, we're Southern. And as if it were another country, except for Scotland, of course, is another country. I'll be over here getting things wrong, Xander. Anyway, but here's a scoop is about Stuart Lee. If you know anything about stand-up comedy, this is how I describe Stuart Lee's stand-up. It's sort of like if Bill Hicks, who is a famous old dead guy, and Andy Kindler, an incredibly talented, super unique voice, currently alive. If those 2 guys were one comic. Yeah, so Stuart Lee is a delight, and he's one of those comics that is cool with the silence. As you could tell with me with the constant chatter, I'm not. But like Tig Notaro is another comic who she's more than willing to just sit there in the silence.
It's all about the writing, the pauses.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I've never written a good pause in my life. I'm with the brit the whole time. So good for
The
them.
main one I see do that a lot is the Anthony Jeselnik. Like he is always like writing the pauses, just like surveying the audience of the setup.
Jeselnik, nobody is better at what Jeselnik does than Anthony. Is it Anthony?
Yes.
Yes. I was like, how did I just space his first name? Because I always could just call him Jeselnik. Anyway, yeah, he is a very dark, very, very funny man. and unapologetically so. And well, he should be, because his stuff is, while it can be mean and dark, it's always hysterical, which is all anyone wants out of a mean and dark joke.
Yeah.
Like, if it's just mean or just dark, you're like, no, I get it. You're just looking for a response. If there's no punchline, then you're just looking for a response. But Jeselnik, I would say 100% of the stuff that I've seen of his is all got punchlines. Granted, I haven't seen him work on stuff, but because we all have to write the punchlines somehow. Do you like Jeselnik? Are you a fan?
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of his stuff though. I didn't see all of the Jeselnik Offensive. I kind of missed out on
that one. I don't think you missed out. I think you're good.
Okay.
I think just seeing his stand up would be fine.
Yeah. So, for anybody watching at home, Stuart Lee and Anthony Jeselnik. Look them up, you'll laugh.
Maria Bamford.
Maria Bamford.
Yeah, you don't have to look up Jeselnik. He'll show up unannounced and uninvited. Because that's what Jeselnik is like. And then you will laugh against your very will.
All right, so we're rolling back a little bit from the tangent upon tangent. So back to Dork Forest. So what are your favorite topics that have come up on Dork Forest? I mean, particularly, I liked the episodes on like Dolly Parton, the one about the Asian ghosts and vampires, and
yeah,
and the one your brother talked about hitchhiking, like that.
Yes, Phil Kashian, my brother, has done 2 episodes and would do one every week if I would let him. He is more than willing to come on at any time. He's got a third topic. It's going to be fly fishing. The first episode he did was Lord of the Rings, and the Silmarillion, and that the whole family is actually quite entertaining as far as like willing to just put it. And then the other ones, the Dolly Parton episodes, that was Lydia Popovich and Amy Miller. Both talked about Dolly Parton. Amy Miller first, and so I learned a lot. The cool ones for me are when I don't know anything about the topic, and then I learn something. I don't always keep all that information. For example, Will Anderson came on and talked about the game of cricket, which is a ball and bat British game that is also played a lot in India and Australia, and I believe the Cayman, the Bahamas, whatever, all the places that Great Britain colonized. So that's where they brought cricket, and so he talked about cricket for an hour. For 1 hour after that episode of the Dork Forest, I knew how to play cricket, and it's gone now. But there's some really great episodes. There's a cheat sheet if you want sort of like the fan favorites. If you wanted to sort of get the top 100 episodes over the last 13 years, but the currently in the last 5 months, for example, for quarantine time, my favorite episode has been with a comic and comedian and a comic writer, Guy Branum. Did you listen to that one? It's about a family in Great Britain called the Mitford sisters.
I think I missed that one.
He's hilarious. Speaking of making someone laugh against their will, he's a great comic, and Guy Branum, and he has the Mitford sisters were 6 girls and 1 boy, and their dad was like an earl, like a aristocratic person in the British hierarchy. And every morning he would say to one of his 7 children, "You're it. The other 6 of you have to go hunt that person." That's terrifying, yes. And they all survived the hunt. Good for them. But those 6 girls, the son died, I think, in World War One, or the first part of World War II. I forget. Maybe the first part of World War II. And the 6 girls, though, of them, one of them dated Hitler. What? Yeah, that's the correct answer, Xander's mom. Second thing.
And like even the disembodied voice over there is surprised.
Yeah. Second thing, one of them ended up being the Duchess of Devonshire, fancy pants, like just like 6 beats away from the monarchy, I guess. And then the third one taught law at UC Berkeley, and I think Hillary Clinton was one of her students.
Wow.
Bananas. Anyway, so the Mitford sisters, it was a crazy episode of the Dork Forest that I didn't know anything about.
Damn. Okay, so you mentioned something earlier about how things have changed during quarantine. What, if any, adjustments have you made to your comedy, like your stand-up stuff, because of the transition to all virtual venues due to the coronavirus?
Sort of like the way I'm doing the jokes, that kind of question.
Yeah, and then also the way you're able to set up your stand-up, like
well, because the stand-up, I've written some new jokes since everything is virtual and online and stuff like that. Here's the weird thing that I've done. I've done a lot more mugging. That's right. I get real close to the camera, and then sometimes
Really?
I go away. I get out of the camera. Sometimes I'm just like, "Hey, peekaboo." Anyway, it's very, very dumb. And so there's a little bit more of that, the physicality of it, and then I've written probably 10 minutes of quarantine jokes. That's about it.
All right then. Also, how has, like, for a lot of your comedy, like especially for a previous stand-up, like you always have the immediate feedback of audience laughter because, as you were saying about the other comedians, laughter is inflicted. Like you sort of make people laugh. So how has your experience changed, and has it been difficult not having that immediate feedback?
Well, I will say this, is that there's several ways that they're presenting live stand-up online now. And my favorite ways, of the things that, quite honestly, they all drive me nuts. But my favorite way is using Zoom, like we're doing right now, where I can see the audience. You can go into gallery view. I can see the audience. Sometimes people turn their cameras off, and I don't mind. I'm used to performing to a room full of darkness. And then I usually...
the stage lights.
Right. And
Blinds you.
It can, yes. There's usually 10 or 15 people that I'll unmute in a room of like 150. If the audience is over 30, you got to mute some of them because of the internet lag, the actual satellite delay, and sort of laughing over setups and punchlines. But you can get good feedback. But there's a lot of shows that start out like this at Zoom, and then they push them to essentially they project them to YouTube and to Twitch and to Instagram, not Instagram, to Facebook, and then there are Instagram shows. And all you get out of those are just thumbs up, likes, hearts. Yeah, they're all right. They're less. Yeah, exactly. It's less fun. Yeah. Because at least Zoom, you could hear some laughter and you could see some people.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. Of all of the ones that aren't standing in front of a pile of humans, which currently exist in a petri dish. So I cannot, I will not be performing in a petri dish right now.
I suppose another thing is like if you're on Zoom and some people are unmuted and you got hecklers, then you can just be like, nope.
Yeah, that was a draw initially where you were just like, well, that is nice to go, boop. But Yeah, I'm good. That's the only thing I'll miss when we go back to in-person shows.
It's like, I'm tired of seeing you. Get out.
Yes, exactly. I'm going to remove. You could still remove people. That is one of my favorite things. Is you could totally remove people a lot easier. Ophira Eisenberg was doing this joke about how she's a 4-year-old kid. It's hers, and but the kid. She put him in a timeout, and he literally, after a couple of seconds in the corner, yelled, "Unmute me!"
Oh my god!
Ophira Eisenberg, find her. She's great.
Everyone's like, damn it, unmute me, please!
It's a classic 4-year-old nailing it.
Yeah.
Oh, Power Man and Iron Fist, glass.
Oh, yeah, that's, wait, can you actually see that? It looks like a really cool glass that you got there.
Oh, yeah. It's Iron Fist.
Oh,
Okay.
sweet.
Nice.
We've gotten a few-
It's from the Brubaker series. That's the only. I think it's from the Brubaker series. That's the only Iron Fist comic, that series of his, that I really liked.
All right.
There was a nice arc.
Yeah, we've interviewed a lot of comic book artists at this point, so as soon as I saw that, I was like, oh, sweet.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there's a couple of comic book writers that have been on the Dork Forest, and artists. Robert Hack is he's done a lot of the covers for this sort of the zombie Sabrina stuff, and he does the Doctor Who covers, but then mostly just writers like Brubaker and Bill Willingham and Mark Waid. That was cool. Anyway.
He's a very nice man. Met him in a con.
Yeah, they're all they were all very nice and lovely to talk to.
Back to the topic of the Dork Forest. So, which do you enjoy more about when people come on the Dork Forest? Like, specifically the subjects that they dork out about, or just having them to hang out and dork out with?
Okay. I like... It's usually my favorite Dork Forests are literally with people that are just plug and play, where they're so excited about what they want to talk about. I just have to sort of nod and go, what? Wait, what was that? And then they'll expound and go down even further into a rabbit hole of whatever.
Just wind them up and let them go.
Yeah. It's a real clock eater. And so that's my favorite. And there's several episodes of the Dork Forest. You can tell if I tell too many stories, if I'm talking too much, that I really like the person so much that I want them to like me. That I will not let them talk. It isn't okay. It's a learned skill to shut up, it turns out.
Yeah. I was gotta find that place to cap, but I guess getting in the full hour experience of Dork Forest, it's pretty easy when you can just get into like, okay, so tell us about the SCP Foundation. Can I?
Whatever that is. It's
that's not a rabbit hole.
Oh, what is it?
Okay, so I don't actually know too much about it. It's basically like people make concepts of monsters online, and this is supposedly like a secret organization that captures these monsters. So it's just it's just a way for people to write and make their own monsters, then send them out on the internet.
Oh, okay. So it's sort of a virtual cosplay and fan fiction kind of thing?
Sort of, yeah.
Like sort of a mashup of just different creative things happening, and then they release them on the internet to do, no doubt, some serious damage. All right.
Yeah, kind of.
Good for them.
Then there's been like some games and short stories made off of them, but that's the point. Yeah. I'm not on your show right now, so like, hey, I feel like I'm being made a fool of here.
You are definitely being interviewed. But that's the cool thing about the Dork Forest is that I don't make fun, because even if it's not my dorkdom, I don't care. Like if I don't care about a thing, that's not what we're there for. We're there to find out why you care about that thing. So if we're talking about sharks, I don't want to swim with sharks. But if you want to swim with sharks and tell me about it for an hour, that is, I'm not going to be like, why are you nuts? That would be a terrible podcast. Why are you nuts? Oh, it's a good name, though. And then you would interview people.
it's the difference between talking to a friend about your interests and then talking to your parents about your interests. Because then, like,
Right.
you talk to your friends, you're like, okay, so Team Fortress 2, it's this really awesome, fun game, and blah, blah, blah. Then get into 2 minutes of conversation, like, okay, so why are they fighting over this?
Right.
Because you just got to capture the point. Sounds kind of dumb.
Right. Well, everyone has things that they really love. Like in this room, my husband started collecting Hot Wheels when he wanted to buy a new car several years ago, and he couldn't afford a Tesla. So instead, he started collecting Hot Wheels, and then it became a very specific collection of Hot Wheel character cars based on the Marvel movies, the DC universe, and Star Wars. He's just doing DC, Marvel, and Star Wars, and he's not doing. And then he just does regular Hot Wheels that are cool, like some crazy muscle car that he thinks is pretty cool looking.
Do something similar with like specific pop figure lines, but
yeah.
not to that degree.
Not all of them. I mean, there's just too many of them. So
yeah, I get the specific stuff you like, because I've seen some people fall down the extremely deep rabbit hole of pop figures. They're just like, I gotta get all of them. Like, no, there's not enough room.
Yeah, I think I had a guy on one time. This had to be 10 or 11 years ago, and he had sold a script, and so the script he sold was for like $150,000. So he made a giant bag of money, and so he collects action figures, and he bought an action figure for $17,000. But he was like, I sold this script. I'm gonna buy my favorite. I'm going to buy this thing, which is there's only one of. It was a prototype.
Is it made of gold?
Gundam Warrior.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. These are expensive.
But I also had a woman on the Dork Forest where she collected handbags. And I said, what was the most that you ever spent on a purse? And she said, they're called handbags. And then she told me that the most she had ever spent on a purse was $15,000. And then I said, was there $14,500 inside of it? Which is the meanest thing I think I've ever said to someone on the Dork Forest. And
honestly,
like,
that'd be my freaking response, because why?
But people love stuff. They love stuff that I don't love. But I try not to make. That was probably the most I've ever made fun of somebody. But she was a comic, so she could handle it. She shut me down very quickly. So good for her.
I suppose it's good that you get comedians on your show, because then, like, when that eventually happens, you gotta have some people who can take a joke.
And plus, they're plug and play. They're literally chatty magoos, so they will just all you got to do is
they're used to being on a presentation and then talking for hours on end. So
yep.
Yeah, I guess it comes kind of naturally. All right, so switching topics a little bit. Your husband is a game designer. Are there any games that I might have played that he worked on?
God of War 2 and 3 are the two famous games that he worked on. The rest of them you've not heard of. He worked at Sega Genesis, and then he worked on, and he did a game called the Floygan Brothers. It was a Dreamcast game. And then he worked at PlayStation, and so he worked on the PS2 and 3. He was there for 10 years. And then he went to THQ and worked on Wii games and Game Boy games.
Did he happen to work on a like Nickelodeon games, perhaps?
He did not work. He did not, when THQ went under, which is probably 10 years ago now. He went to he became contract, and he worked for 3 years on a bunch of iPad and iPhone games. This is 10 years ago, right? For Disney. And yeah, I don't know if you ever saw a game called Where's My Water? It's sort of a dig
I remember that one.
Yeah.
As well, the gator, and he's trying to get water into a shower.
That's it. It's a dig dug game. Yeah. And then I think he was, and then so and so now he does contract stuff. So a lot of the games are for the phones, obviously, and Facebook, and it was for Facebook, and now Facebook has kind of stopped doing games, and now it's just all phone games. But get this, like about 5 years ago, he said to me, "I don't want to make video games anymore. I want to make board games." And then he stared deeply into my eyes, and I said, "The lucrative world of board games?" And he goes, "That is correct." And we laughed and laughed. Anyway, so he's been working. He's got a tabletop RPG, sort of like Dungeons and Dragons, but for superheroes, called the Hero Instant.
Nice.
Where you make it. He initially started it because I was playing D&D, but I had never really played before, and I was playing Champions, and I was playing something else, Pathfinder, I think, and I don't like making the characters. You got to find all the charts and stuff. Some people love that stuff. Not my favorite. The Hero Instant, you could make a hero in an instant. It's a super easy character creation. And you can go to theheroinstant.com, and it's still in beta testing, but it's all free. So you can play it. He's brought it to Gen Con, I think, for 3 years and play tested it. So
we'll see if we can get some links in the description on that one, because it sounds good.
That's neat, right? Yeah, it's just theheroinstant.com. So that's what he's working on that, and he's also been working on a board game, a time travel board game that is now in they're doing the art for publishing. So it'll be a sec. It's a slow boat. Game design seems to be a very slow, it's sort of like stand-up where it takes years because it's iteration, right? You have to keep trying it and finding out what breaks the game, trying it and finding out what breaks the game.
Yeah, like playtesters are essentially hecklers.
Yes, because you can't. It's so interesting, and it's it's been fascinating just being around the process.
Yeah. So, other than D&D, what kinds of games do you play?
Well, currently I am playing, and I guess this would be probably 3 years I've been playing this phone game that is, at first glance, it's literally freaking Bejeweled, right? It's just a match 3 Candy Crushy kind of thing, right?
Okay.
Except for that it's a Marvel superhero one. There was one called, it was just called Puzzle Quest, and it was all sword and sorcery, like elves and dwarves and stuff, and it was a combat game. And this is now Marvel Puzzle Quest, and it's the only game that I've done in-game purchasing where I've given them money, and I've been playing it for probably 3 years. And what I love about Marvel Puzzle Quest is the depth of characters. They go so deep into the long boxes of comic books and Marvel that, like, I think there's just some amazing, and with all the movies, you're just like, what the hell is Mysterio doing in here? And then all of a sudden, he's in the movie. So...
But so characters will somehow become very prominent in the game, and then suddenly they'll be like, "Wait a minute, that was teasing something."
Exactly, and then we play a lot of like right now I'm in 2 tabletop games, two Hero Instant playtests that are super fun, and those are pen and paper like D&D kind of games, and then we play a lot of board games, and online it's harder. We're doing Tabletop Simulator, which has an okay interface, but not great.
I've tried it before. It's pretty good.
Fiddly. And but once you figure out how to set the cameras and the key commands, it helps. Obviously, like everything, it's got a learning curve. But we've been playing a lot of Clank. Clank is a dungeon game, and then another Lord of the Rings game that you interact with an iPad version and a board game. It's kind of fascinating.
All right.
And there's a couple of deck building games I like Thunderstone.
Sweet.
Yes. Oh, and there's a pirate game called Black Ships. Black Sails? Black Sails, I think. Because it's a pirate game. And anyway, you just put a nickel in my dorkdom. I'll stop talking now. Go ahead.
What goes around comes around. So, with the Marvel superheroes game that you're talking about, do you often dork out about superheroes?
Oh yeah, yeah. There's I'm recording one on Friday with a guy who literally follows so much. He's got to be on Reddit, man. He's got to be on 1,000 subreddits of Reddit because he has every rumor about, because there's the Inhumans, the New Mutants, and Black Widow that are in the can, but have not been released, right?
Yes.
Those 3 Marvel movies. And so he's going to come on and just talk about essentially Marvel. And I can keep up. Like I just did a Marvel. I've done a couple of podcasts for Marvel and revolved around Marvel, but I haven't. My knowledge is pretty good. It is nothing compared to people that have been reading it since they were 13, and I just happen to. I've been reading them plenty, but I don't know enough, right? Like I'm not an expert. I'm just a fan. So.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of those people who, like, you go onto YouTube and then you find those channels that are like, okay, so over on this one subreddit, in this little link, in this comment section, you find a little bit from the dev that the person in charge tweeted a couple of weeks back, which says that this is definitely going to happen in the movie.
Right. And then, whether it does or not, it was a fun game while we played it.
Yeah. Like, half the time it's actually like almost correct, but then the other half of the time I'm like, this is a serious stretch here.
Right. I mean, the stretch is always pretty stretchy, but I will say that it's fun to think about. They're just like, what is that? He's wearing a ring. Does that mean the Green Lantern's going to show up? Maybe. You don't know. You don't know. Anyway.
Cool. All right, so back to the topic of tabletop games. Do you what kinds of characters do you like to play? Do you play characters that are more of a like a self-insert, superlative you, or a complete departure from your everyday self?
I've the 3 big characters I've played, the 2 I'm playing now, and the one that I played. We just finished a campaign that Andy ran a D&D campaign. So it started with Dungeons & Dragons 3.5, which was, now we're at 5.0.
Yes.
So 3.5 tried to fix the problems of 3.0. I had never played Dungeons & Dragons before. So we started that game in 2004. And so 16 years later, we were basically gods. And we would wander Eberron and just smite things. Like, we traveled to the moon and we cracked it in half, and then we had to put it back together. You can't just leave the moon cracked. It's really gonna. I don't know if you've read any N.K. Jemisin.
Kind of important that we have the moon.
Yeah, we need the moon. You should read the Broken Earth trilogy, by the way. N.K. Jemisin won the Hugo for all 3 books in the trilogy. The Broken Earth trilogy. Anyway, so. But I will say this, is that, so I played an archer, and it was a character that wasn't actually in any of the books. You know how Dungeons & Dragons is created, where one person, you sort of pick what system you're going to be in and what sort of terrain you're going to be, like the world you're going to be on.
Yes.
And then you create a character, and then you wander around that character. There are 1,000 other books. Every book is $60. And then you buy those books, and then you memorize those books. But I don't. I play with guys who've been playing since they were 13, and read the books for fun, and have swallowed all of those charts. So you're like, what happens if I want to do that? Well, you would roll a D4. Anyway, so it's this type of thing. So, but I was a 4-armed Kalishtar archer, and and a shadow dancer, which meant that I could jump. By the end of it, I could jump 90 feet from darkness to darkness. It was amazing. I was very, very powerful. So that character is, yes, I would love to be an incredibly godlike archer. Yes, I would. You are correct. I am not. So,
or at least as far as we know, where you hide.
Exactly, my secret identity. And now I am also playing 2 other. The hero instant, I am playing an archaeologist who opened the wrong or the right sarcophagus down in Central America, and was given the powers of Quetzalcoatl, which I'm saying wrong. Quetzalcoatl is a serpent god in Mesopotamian mythology that can fly and control the wind.
Yeah,
And
I know.
yeah.
I don't know about Quetzalcoatl. It's like I actually have a D&D character myself, the Halfling Rogue, level 13, I think, at this point.
15.
Nice.
15. I did multi-classing in both Rogue and Wizard, so that I could just sneak up and then sneak attack somebody with extremely powerful spells. And I had that character has a familiar that now has kind of become a mainstay on the show, known as Craig Stapodal Scales, going by Craig. It is a tiny poisonous snake that assists me in doing snake attack damage.
Very nice. Well played.
And we just have him on the show now.
Yeah, now that's just it's nice to have a mascot, even if it's a poisonous snake. And then the other one, I play sort of a Mrs. Kravitz kind of character who's a telepath, which means and named the Meddler. I got a nose problem, is what I'm saying, Xander. I'm on the Erie Canal. I'm on the Eiffel Tower. I'm in your business. Yeah, I'm meddling in your brain box, and so those.
I get enough of these puns from my dad. This isn't affecting me.
Oh, I am the father of 3 inside my own head. That would be an excellent character. That should be my next character, possibly. And that's what I like about D&D and all the tabletops is that you could sort of role play, like Andy, my fella, has told me that it helped a lot with sort of figuring out how to deal with social situations and role play different kind of characters. You know, I mean, you could check out moral dilemmas. You can be the jackass you've always wanted to be. Yeah. You can be the hero you've always wanted to be. You can do anything you want, right? Yeah. So it's kind of great role playing, and I think it's an excellent tool for sort of socialization, quite honestly, especially for people with little or no social skills. You're looking right at me. Okay.
Yeah,
better now.
Except for those people who like they make a character and say, "Oh no, my character is chaotic neutral," but what they really mean is murder hobo, chaotic evil. And they're like,
murder hobo. Yes.
I'm just so wacky. I'm totally neutral on the morality standpoint. You just burned down that orphanage for the kicks. Yeah, I'm just so wacky. It's part of my character.
Yeah, that's not neutral.
Yeah, I think Joe Cat did something about alignment charts and how most of the chaotic stuff is it's
psychotic. Yeah. Yeah. It's not chaotic. It's psychotic. Congratulations.
Yeah, psychotic evil. So I think we're running a little bit low on time. So just wrapping this up, we usually like to ask a nice philosophical question at the end. Right. You know, as far as we go with that. So would you rather only write or only perform?
I hate this question. Congratulations.
Philosophical is our language for man.
Because here's the thing, what it makes me think is that am I stuck in a writer's room or am I stuck an actor performing other people's works? Right?
Yes.
Those are the two questions. I guess perform.
Ooh.
Which is weird, because, I hate this question. Anyway, but yes, you are correct. You have stumped the audience.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Excellent. Victory for Zan. Or something like that.
Victory points. Okay.
Anyway, so thank you so much for coming on this episode.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Jackie Kashian, everybody. We'll be right back.